You do not get a second chance to make a first impression. You don't get a second chance to make a first impression. So, what has this new iteration of Batman given us for our first impression but the lovely sound of duct tape? That's the first thing right out of the bat, right off the bat. Ooh, look at that. Look at me go. We get the sound of duct tape, which was less than thrilling, I think is fair to say. I don't know anyone. I haven't heard anyone speak that was not willing to give the Patman a fresh chance, that was not willing to say, okay, all the sins of the past, all of this, all of that, you're the Twilight guy, Batman's coming off a less than stellar run, but hey, let's just wipe the slate clean. I think especially in the world of cinema, with a character like Batman who has had so many iterations, we as an audience are especially prone to being able to say, okay, yeah, it's all out there. All gone, fresh start. But the duct tape feels, metaphorically, like a jab at the entire DCEU. And what they're trying to do is sort of duct tape everything together, especially with all of the news recently about Michael Keaton returning and basically anyone who ever played Batman getting another crack at things. So it is strangely fitting that we lead off with the sound of duct tape, but I am not sure. It didn't work for me. This trailer, look, I'm not saying that the movie's going to be bad. I think that it could be very, very good, but I didn't like this trailer very much. The one thing that really has stood out to me as a critique early and often for this franchise so far, even though we don't really have much, is the use of the color red. It's been a very consistent shade of red, or is it tint? I'm not sure if red is a tint or a shade color. But for me, maybe it's because I'm half blind, it's very difficult on the eyes. I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. And it is, unless I'm mistaken, a non-classic Batman type color, right? So I am interested. Why red? Is there going to be some type of interplay with the colors? Is the color going to have some type of symbolism? I certainly hope so. I certainly hope that it's not just they were sitting around thinking, you know what's really not Batman? Red. Let's go with it. I hope that was not the case. I have full faith that was not the case. I have full faith that the color red is going to mean something not just to this movie, but probably to this incarnation of the character of Batman. The one thing that has been rumored, I'm not sure if it was ever confirmed, that the bat symbol on his chest was made from the cleaved halves of the gun that killed his parents. That would be interesting. So I am more than willing. This seems like a darker iteration of Batman. I've watched this trailer 6 times now, something like that. So I've got a bunch of scattered thoughts, and I haven't really addressed this iteration of Batman at all on the channel yet. It seems like a much darker take even than the Nolan verse, which was a pretty dark take. If you actually give it credit where credit's due, the Nolan verse is a pretty dark take on Batman. It's also a very realistic world take on Batman, and this iteration seems to be trying to outdo the Nolan verse in both of those categories. Hopefully it's not just simply to outdo the Nolan verse in those categories. But even I don't think many people who are not into Batman culture or the Batman mythos will recognize the "I am vengeance" quote. So I think what you're doing there when you're sliding that in, most people are expecting him to say, "I'm Batman." Just right off the bat, "I'm Batman." Not the whole quote, just "I'm Batman." So when you slide that in there, it really does, paired with the fact that he's carrying around the murder weapon for his parents, paired with the fact, I guess that's not paired anymore, is it? But when you add to it the fact that we have all of this red symbolism going on, and you add that to the fact that the main villain here seems to be just straight murking people, you've got what's adding up to be a much darker take on the role. I can't think, Maybe the Burton ones. It's been a long time since I've seen those trailers. I can't think of another Batman where the first trailer, right off the bat, we have blood. And I'm assuming that we have blood. Where the Riddler wrote "Don't lie" or "I tell lies" or whatever it was that he wrote on the duct tape he put on the guy's face. I'm assuming that was written in blood, or supposed to be blood, right? I can't think of another Batman trailer where we got blood. I mean, right off the bat. I did it again. This also, hey, maybe I'm out of the loop. This seems like the least fanfare I have ever seen for a Batman trailer dropping. You might need The World's Greatest Detective to find it, which is great because that is apparently the direction in which this is going. What I am willing to bet, since we had that fight scene in the precinct, I'm willing to bet that what we have here is a Batman that is working hand in hand with the police, especially considering that he is at a crime scene with police working all around him. I'm assuming that what we're getting here is a Batman that works hand in hand with the police that will evolve over the series. I'm assuming we're going for a trilogy here, though I haven't heard anything about that either. That by the second episode of this series, we're going to have a Batman that is distanced from the police force. So it's going to be interesting to see in what direction that goes. But going back to that scene, the "I am the vengeance" scene, Batman, if I am not mistaken, ends up throwing 12 punches / martial arts moves at random thug number 4. The first 10 put him out of commission, and then he throws another 2 on top. Hey, you know what would save you time in the heat of the moment? Working out. If you were a bit more dedicated to your workout, Patman. Maybe it wouldn't take you 12 shots to completely incapacitate random villain thug number 4. By the way, is the Joker in this movie? Don't those look like Joker henchmen? Am I mistaken about that? Like, I know that it was not maybe tone correct. They had black on their face, but they still looked like clowns. Are those not Joker henchmen? Maybe. The Joker inherits them from the Riddler or something. I don't know. I don't think the Joker's in this movie. I haven't heard of it. Maybe it's just his henchmen. I don't know. Along those lines, the one thing I've got to say that seems to stand out to me is that it feels like the Riddler has been around a lot longer than has Batman. That's interesting. That's an interesting take for the movie universe. It feels like the Riddler really has his... It feels like the Riddler is someone who already has a few reports going on him. But B, it really feels like he's got his system down. You know, whoever's house he was in at the beginning there, stringing him up, and he'd already killed him, and taking the time to write his note and everything, it felt like he was experienced, which is an interesting take on things. In the Burton universe, I think that in the Burton universe, Batman was definitely around before the supervillains. When it sort of spun out of control there in the mid-90s, that was a continuation of the Burton universe, so Batman would have preceded the supervillains. Maybe I'm misremembering something. In the Nolan-verse, Batman... So at the end of Batman Begins, Gordon has the line, what about escalation? What do you mean? I mean, we've got guns, they get more powerful ones. We got armor-piercing bullets, they buy bigger armor. You're running around in a mask, for Christ's sake. They're going to get their own masks, and by God, by episode 2 of that series, there is, the Joker running around. This escalation of supervillains. It feels like Batman comes around in this universe because he is necessary. There's the supervillains sort of running around, and then Batman becomes the part that's to combat that. He is the escalation versus the other way around, which is interesting. It felt, and I'm sure this is not going to be the first time that this critique is made, because it is so out there. It's right in your face. This feels like Seven, right? This feels like Seven when I was imagining from the casting news that we had gotten and everything that it would feel a lot more like The Long Halloween. But it feels like Seven. Just going to put that out there. That's not, that could be a great thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That could be a great thing. Seven was a great movie. What's in the box? Another thing, everything looks flat. This is an argument that is off. This is a critique that is often waged towards like Joss Whedon. Everything looked flat to me on the screen. Again, maybe I'm half blind. I don't know. I was never really positive where I should be looking on screen until something moved. Maybe that is the aesthetic for this, but it threw me off a lot of times. I will say, in Finality, that something feels more vulnerable about this Batman with his suit looking so cobbled together. It really feels as if the scene where he's with the police at the crime scene, you're really sort of waiting for somebody to scream at him, "Take the damn mask off, you silly bastard." It really feels that way. It really feels like I imagine all those goth kids in high school felt at some point. Like, I'm putting all this makeup on, and I got this whole, charade of the Jinko jeans and everything's black and all this and all that. Like Andrew Yang, if you ever saw that picture of Andrew Yang when he was younger. Like halfway through putting on the get-up every morning, they had to think, man, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to look this way? But I did yesterday, and the week before that, and the month before that, and then last year I looked this way. So I guess I kind of got to go. I got to kind of do it. I can't just show up not that way. It feels very much like maybe it's pulled off better in the movie than in the trailer, but for me it just felt vulnerable, which is good, but sort of silly, which is kind of not. But that is all I have for a review of the new Batman trailer, and I think it looks all right. I don't want it to come across that way, and I'm definitely going to see it. But a tenuous beginning, I think, at best.